You got Brandin Cooks, who was also acquired this offseason. Finished the season wide receiver 62 last year, playing for the Rams, 42 receptions, 72 targets, 583 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. Guys, your thoughts around Brandin Cooks?
I like Brandin Cooks, and I probably like Brandin Cooks more than what a lot of people do. And I'm okay because you can get Brandin Cooks as, again, you can get Brandin Cooks as your third receiver and really be set. Like he is the true number one in Houston. Like he will find a way to get the rapport with Deshaun Watson and go through it. Last year he was dinged up a little bit and missed a couple games, but it was the first time since his rookie year that he had missed any game time, guys. So people are really down on him. And the year before, so in 18 he finished wide receiver 13. In 17, he finished wide receiver 15. In 16, 10, and in 15, 13. So he's consistently at the top end of wide receiver 2 or the bottom end of wide receiver 1, like consistently. Last year, I'm choosing to believe that as an anomaly. Like he got dinged up, he had a concussion that he just couldn't shake off, and it just kind of spiraled downhill from there. And the Rams offense last year was a shell of itself from the Super Bowl year in 2018. So I think he will find some resurgence. Houston has to find a way to move the ball somehow, and Deshaun Watson he's good enough. He's crafty. He can use his legs. He can buy time. It's going to allow Cooks to kind of find some of those gaps or get down the field a little bit. And I have no issue drafting Brandin Cooks to be my wide receiver 3 on any team I'm drafting. I think you can get a ton of value from Brandin Cooks, and he's kind of on my, like, that top end of my watch list. Like I'm just trying to see when I need to pull the trigger on him to get the most value before I think I'm going to get sniped by someone else. But he is on my short list of mid-round guys to go after.
So we're seeing, what he did last year was essentially the same numbers that he put up his rookie year in New Orleans. And Cooks has been the benefactor of having some pretty talented quarterbacks throw the football to him. He had Drew Brees, he had Tom Brady, he had Jared Goff, who is a top-tier passer. I mean, the guy can make every throw you need him to. So, will the rapport get there? That's the big thing. Will, Deshaun Watson be able to develop that rapport with him? I would assume so. This isn't Cook's first time around learning a new offense and being successful in a new offense. So I think we've seen it right away. I think that this, I think we're going to see numbers probably closer to, the year before with Cooks, provided he can stay healthy and is in there the whole time. Kevin, you're looking at him as a wide receiver 3, and I think his value is at wide receiver 2 territory.
His value is, yes, I'm talking about where you can draft him.
Whoa, okay.
That's where that value plays in. You can draft him because he's falling so far right now. You can pick him up on your team as your third wide receiver, and you instantly have mid to high end wide receiver 2 upside. Like you instantly upgrade at that position.
Right. So what I would say to anybody drafting him is, you're going to get a wide receiver 2 out of Brandin Cooks. I mean, he's shown that. And if you can get him at wide receiver 3 territory, kudos to you. But yeah, I see last year as an anomaly in terms of his production. It just wasn't his year. And now that he's on an offense that's going to be desperate for a target, and he'll be lining up for opposite of Will Fuller for about 4 or 5 games, that'll be where you'll have his value.
You're absolutely right. Brandin Cooks is a guy that ADP has him right around 72, 73. So when you look at it, that's back end of the 6th, beginning of the 7th. There is a ton of value there, because typically when you're talking about the 6th, 7th round, you're talking about putting around the pieces to your team. You're starting to talk about the guys you're going to be talking, putting in the flex, be your bye week fill-ins, be your guys that if you can draft him there, he's a guy that could overtake the guy that you drafted to be number 2, and that puts you in a great spot when you're looking fantasy-wise. A guy that you drafted to be your 3rd but can easily fill in for your wide receiver 2. I think he's got a ton of value, but before we come back to you, Alex, I want to ask you guys an over/under. Do you see him breaking 1,000 yards this season, over/under?
Over.
Over.
Barely, but over.
I mean,
So
I'm confident in saying over, but yeah, barely, but over.
That's about where I had him when I was statting out. I had him about 1,074 yards, somewhere right in there, which should put him back in that wide receiver 2 territory very firmly.
I guess the point that I was trying to make before I got sidetracked and was thinking about other things. Don't let recency bias ruin your opinion of Brandin Cooks. That's how you should approach this draft. Don't let the recency bias of last year's numbers ruin what Brandin Cooks can be.